Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to I Draw and I Say Things, a podcast that I really just wanted to do because I don't want anyone else to take the title. So, you may have seen videos of my past. You may have seen, the four, maybe three that I had uploaded, where my mic was just terrible. So I have a better mic now, and I honestly want to talk about a few things as I draw. That's basically what this podcast is. It's based off the Game of Thrones quote, I drink and I know things. And what better thing to be drawing than one of my favorite games, Monster Hunter. But that's not really why I'm here. Why I'm here is I want to talk about manga and anime. More specifically, the Black Cat series. I first been exposed to it when I was 15, maybe 16, and I just absolutely adored everything about it. Everything about Black Cat I loved. The characters, the art style itself, the story, the dialogue. And I'll start with what I like about the manga. What I like about the manga is it's short. Honestly, I would love to have more, but as it is, it's pretty good. It's about 20 volumes, and it essentially tells the story of two factions, Kronos and the Apostles of the Star. Now, the Apostles of the Star is a cult, using the power of what is called Tao to attempt to reshape the world in however they desire. And Kronos is essentially a top secret organization that runs 1/3 of the world's economy behind the scenes, all the while retaining their power. Through these people called erasers, or the chrono numbers. And there is one in particular who is known as Black Cat, a particularly good one, who ends up, seeing the light in the error of his ways, and sees Kronos for what it really is, an organization bent on control. An organization bent on control. And so he leaves it. And along the way, he meets Sven Volfeed. Now, the Black Cat's name is Train Hartnett. So Train Hartnett and Sven Volfeed are partners. Partners in what is the opposite of crime, which is being sweepers, or people who get crime off the streets by apprehending and turning in criminals for money. And I apologize if you hear my tablet in the background. I still haven't worked out all the kinks with the microphone, but it's a better one, so I hope you can forgive me for that. Now let's see. They eventually find out about the Apostles of the Star from a mass murderer and psychopath, Creed Diskins. Creed Diskins is bent on, again, as the Apostles of the Stars are, reshaping the world, personally inspecting the population, growing their power to the point of no return, to where only they will rule in a society that they call Eden. And so Train and Sven have to end up having to fend off of both Kronos and the Apostles of the Star before either of them can amass enough power to what will utterly devastate the civilian population. Along the way, they meet Eve, who is supposedly a living weapon, but of course, she was cloned from an actual human woman. And so she eventually is able to find her humanity through misadventures involving Sven, Now I'm getting a little too much into the story, so that's the basic beginning of the story. I highly recommend you check out the series for yourself. You can find it on Amazon, you can find it at your library, on Shonen Jump, and yeah, that's pretty much the manga portion of this. Now I want to talk about the anime adaptation. As with all media, the movie or the show is generally not as good as the books. And that, I will say, sadly, is the case with the anime. It falls short as far as story and animation goes. Now, of course, it's a lot easier to illustrate monsters than it is to animate them. That much I understand. What they do, I probably couldn't do half of myself at this point. At this moment. And while the voice acting generally isn't bad, with the books, they went with the backstory route. There was a character named Sayami Natsuki, who was Train Hartnett's dear friend, that Creed eventually murdered. That Creed had murdered. Now, of course, you wouldn't know about that from the manga until later. That it was a long time ago. Sorry for bumping my microphone. And here, they went with the whole, she's happy-go-lucky, but she seemed almost too happy-go-lucky. I mean, there is a point where it gets kind of, not to overuse a term, but kind of cringy. And so at the beginning, it, sort of was made me feel a bit uneasy, but I guess that is with pretty much all English voice acting. Just look at Monster Hunter World, one of my favorite games of all time. Now, next is what I do like about the anime is, of course, the characters are still pretty much who they are. They're great. The characters themselves are great, their development is great, and the way they work is pretty much exactly like they work in the books. However, I will say, one of the most disappointing things is it seemed at times that there just wasn't enough action at all. I would have loved to see more of Flora, the dinosaur. I would have loved to see more of the Apostles of the Stars and their battles that ensue. I was really looking forward to that heavy-handed showdown between Creed and Hartnett. Between Creed and Train. And that was kind of a letdown for me because he was so much more reckless in the anime than he was in the manga. In the manga, he was pretty much always calm and collected. There was seldom times that he lost his temper. However, it seemed like for the majority of the anime, he lost his temper around Creed. And I never got to see the full glory of Creed's Imagine Blade. And instead of the other Taoists fighting Train and his comrades, it was just the typical cloned army. And that part I just found kind of disappointing. The clone army, of course, came from the Doctor, who is, the mad scientist gone absurd. And with the anime, ultimately, the ending goes to the giant final battle against a giant creature that, if it collides with a certain amount of things, and stuff and things, that it will end the world, so to speak. The story was that Eden wasn't a result of... And sorry, spoilers. I really should have put that warning earlier. But Eden ends up being Eve, connected with a Eve, the little girl, the bioweapon. Whenever she merges with a program named Adam. However, of course, through trial and tribulation, and a quick, only 2 episodes, pretty much, maybe 3 or 4, they sum up the entire battle. It's just overall underwhelming. One of the best things about the manga is that it left so much more to be desired. The manga ended with Creed, again, spoilers, Creed being alive and escaping, and that was the end of it. He didn't reappear at all after that because there were no books after that. There were 20 books and 24 episodes. And that it kind of bummed me out. So yeah, that is my basic verdict of the anime and manga, of course. And when it comes to animation, I gotta say this, for a 2005 anime, it wasn't bad at all. It was pretty good. I'm going to be comparing it. I basically compare every anime I've watched to One Punch Man because it's so darn good. With One Punch Man, it was basically everything was focused on the action. There were times of, there was generally a lot of jabs of, humor. But after that was a serious tone, and maybe sometimes a not overly serious tone. Half the fights are comedic. But the enemies are so powerful, and yet One Punch Man was so powerful that, forgive me, I'm going on a tangent here, but he was so powerful that it wasn't One Punch Man that you really were there to see. Of course you were there to see One Punch Man, but you were also there to see the display, the showcase of the monster's powers. Of just the straight up power of the monsters. So, the thing is, I was looking forward to Sven's fight with, I don't know what his name was, but I'm going to call him Frost. For those of you who have read the manga, you know who he is. He's the person, of course, who manipulates ice. And, I was looking forward to a more involved fight between Eve and Leon. The air mage, essentially Aang from Avatar. An airbender. And so essentially, with the anime, it started off rocky. It got really good. And towards the end, it just sort of fell off. And sadly, that happens with a lot of shows. Now, granted, I will give credit where credit is due. I loved the characters. I loved most of their development. I did have some problems with pacing and story. Oh yeah, that's the other thing about the anime, is that it went from either god-awful pacing to a jumbled mess of either, is it backstory? Is it premonition of future events? Is it, a flashback? Is it present time? Is it future going to present time or present to future? It is that. I know it sounds dumb how I'm explaining it, but that is exactly how it felt to me. You'll know what I mean if ever you watch it. I found it on YouTube. You could probably find it elsewhere. I do not recommend going outside of YouTube, though, unless you know that you're going to be prone to viruses. But yeah, overall, the manga is a lot better than the anime. Anime is still worth watching, but would I rewatch it? No. So that's pretty much all I had to say, unless I can think of other things. And so that actually, you know what? I guess I'm going to wrap up my critique of Black Cat. I know I'm not a critic. I'm not very articulate when it comes to these sort of things. It's kind of tough when you have nobody to talk to, but that is my verdict. That is my critique overall. So now I guess I'm going to talk about what I have planned for this channel. And if you want to just watch me work, if you want to just watch me draw, then you can go ahead and mute the video. But if you wish to hear what I have in store for everyone in the future, for like the 3 people who watch this and don't get more than 30 seconds through, which by the way, if you did and you're at this point, thank you very much. But yeah, let's start with what I'm doing now. What I'm currently doing now is scholarly animation. I am currently in school, and thus am an amateur artist and an animator. But I eventually hope to go into the industry, like full on into the industry, either creating indie films, creating indie animations, or working with indie companies for animations. And of course, doing that, doing the I Draw and I Know Things podcast, I Draw and I Say Things podcast. Jeez, I'm slipping up so much. But yeah, that is generally what I have planned for now, is just to do this podcast maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, I don't know. I'll see how everything goes. And I will have y'all know, I don't have social media at the moment, so pretty much the only way to contact me is pretty much in the comments. And I will read the comments. I do love comments. Comment section, honestly, is my favorite pretty much of all of YouTube. I'll have you know, I will never disable my comments, no matter how bad it gets, because frankly, that's how good it gets. I love it. But yeah. I do have gaming planned for the future. However, that will require a little legwork as far as recording software goes. I currently use OBS, which is a free recording software, and it's darn good for being free. It is darn good. Now, as far as video editing, bear with me. I'm too poor to afford it, and I'm too lazy to use the free ones to my advantage. All I can do basically is jump cuts and basic, transitions and things like that. So, I'm not what you would call a high-budget, prestigious animator and, YouTuber. Because hopefully my main source of income will be my art. Problem is, the term starving artist comes to mind. For those of you who don't know what a starving artist is, though you probably do, this is just for those who don't know. A starving artist is someone who is unable to pay the bills through art alone. Because art generally doesn't pay very much. But I love to do it. And so that's what I have basically planned. So it goes like this. Podcast, where I just say things and draw and say things. And eventually gaming. Speaking of gaming, I have a friend named Droid Bones, or droidbones2.ttv. He's on Twitch. He's a great friend of mine. Go check him out. Show him some love. And eventually I'm hoping to do gaming both alone and with him. But again, I still have a life to live, so that won't be coming for a bit. But I will definitely be doing the podcast either weekly or bi-weekly, so that's an upside. So if you don't mind me, I'll just be pretty much turning my microphone off and drawing for the rest of the video. I'll probably put some music in the background once I find out how. I'll probably find out how after the video. Or not after the video, after I'm done talking. And let's see, that's pretty much it as far as the channel itself goes for the content that I'm going to make. I will say one thing, though. I'll say what I'm not going to do. Politics. As far as you know, it is election time. People are telling you to vote. Nobody will shut up about it. It probably won't shut up about it until, maybe not even after the election. Who knows? But yeah, I won't be talking politics. Pretty much at all. I won't even have a second channel for it. I hate it so much. It's taken me. I don't want it to take you to. Y'all are probably too young. Frankly, I'm too young. But I digress from that. And that's pretty much it. So I'll continue drawing. I'm going to probably unplug my mic or turn it off. And other than that, I'll see y'all next time.